If they are out in the second round or the first round or the season goes completely in the opposite direction, all cards will be on the table.
Right now, the Miami Heat, I believe they're in the sixth spot as recording of this podcast, and they get a huge win over the Los Angeles Lakers. So, just overall, what is kind of your vibe of this team? Are they meeting your expectations? Are they a disappointment? Or are they right as you thought they were going to be, and they're looking good headed towards MLK Day and then the All-Star break?
Well, they definitely haven't met expectations, and it's been a disappointment. I think we should definitely acknowledge that reality. I think when you're a shot away from the NBA Finals, as they were, Jimmy Butler obviously went for the win, and I don't blame him. But there is some and admittedly what they've called a hangover in Miami. I think Udonis Haslem used that term. And I think that it's basically made the same team that came back from last year that was a shot away from the finals struggle to basically stay within the play-in status. And so I don't think that we expected that from this Miami Heat group. You see the same team come back. You expect to be basically top four in the conference. I think basically going into the season, you knew Boston, Milwaukee would be good, but you felt like you were right around that range, directly below maybe a 3 seed, a 4 seed, right? So for them to be in 6 today, which is as good a seeding position as they've had, coincidentally, as I come on your guys' show, they're in the best seeding that they've been in weeks. So that is a good thing for them. I think that they have their eyes set on getting in that 4-5 slot for now. That's kind of the next hurdle, and keeping the teams below them at bay. But so far, it's been disappointing. I will have to say that there's been moments this year where this team has looked as disconnected as I've seen a Heat group in quite some time. They kind of look like a team that was expecting big moves to happen over the summer, and then they didn't happen. So then everyone comes back and they're kind of like, whoa, this is the same group. Are we going to be able to actually squeeze even more out of us as we, got so close last year? So it hasn't been a fun start to the season for Heat fans and Heat observers. But to that point, being in the 6th seed today, there is nowhere to go but up as they head out west as we are recording this show with basically a fully healthy roster. So there is upside as we look ahead.
So, what is the vibe, in your opinion, of the locker room? Because what you're saying, and it's somewhat a similar situation. I'm a huge Bulls fan, and they had a huge locker room blow up when they played the Timberwolves. And I just want to see, like, with the Heat not meeting expectations, what is the vibe of the players in the locker room, just considering what happened last year? Are they not panicking from what you observed, or are they seriously expressing some concern as to kind of their slow start?
I promise I'm not being elusive with this answer, and I'll articulate why, but they're doing a little bit of both. Okay. There's moments where the veterans on the roster are saying things like, we just need to play better. Eventually the shots will fall. We know what we need to do. You hear some of the cliche stuff, and then you talk behind the scenes with guys, and you do hear that there has been moments of friction this offseason, this summer, or excuse me, this regular season, just because losing kind of brings that frustration out of anybody. I talked to sources within the organization and have asked about, what's the vibe around Jimmy? And you know what they say? Jimmy is being Jimmy when Jimmy is losing. And so, take that for what you will. But it doesn't mean that they're necessarily a group that is on the verge of needing to be broken up, or they're a team that's in such kind of turmoil that it's bubbling beneath the surface and going to just overflow and sabotage the year. But I will say that it is not as kumbaya as it was as they were coasting as a 1 seed last season, for sure.
And so 7-3 in their last 10 games. What has been the key to turning this around for them? I mean, is it really just committing to playing defense again? Is it buy-in, just acceptance that this is going to be the group moving forward? Or what do you see as an insider as you're watching that team that has been so different from the start of this season?
A lot of it has to do so far with just most recently, I think that they've been able to Well, one, anytime you get Jimmy and Bam back in the lineup, and that happens more frequently, and lately they've had Tyler, Jimmy, Bam, Kyle Lowry missed for personal reasons, but he will be traveling with the team to Denver on this West Coast trip now. When you get your regulars back in the lineup, I think that that's beneficial, right? They need their top 7, 8 guys to play. They're a top heavy group. When you talk about Tyler, Bam, Jimmy, and the responsibilities those guys have. The other part of this is that you're starting to get some key bench players. You know, they were number 1 in bench scoring last year. They're last in the league. And now to get Gabe Vincent back, maybe a guy like Max Strus, who's had to start maybe when he's not necessarily meant to start, can resume a bench role. So Oladipo finally is starting to get back, so maybe he can find a role offensively off the bench, so they can maybe get a little bit more coming off the bench that way. So for really, this comes down to Spoelstra having more at his disposal from a roster perspective, and they also played some easy teams. Let's be honest, and low hanging fruit. Let's get victories now because the schedule gets a lot more difficult in January.
So I want to ask you about Tyler Herro. I think he's one of the most fascinating players in the league for a variety of reasons. Can you kind of explain what you think of him and like the Heat fans as well, of his value to the Heat? Do you see him being a long-term part of the Heat's future, or do you see they're just going to cut bait with him at some point, despite what he's shown flashes of brilliance throughout his career so far?
So the Heat love Tyler Herro. They love his work ethic. They love the fact that he's a gym rat. He comes in every single conditioning test, workout, anything they ask of him, he is 100% in. And finding guys that like to lock in like that is not necessarily easy. The Miami Heat are not for everybody. They are for Tyler Herro. So that is something to remember as we talk about him and them looking to trade him. To that point, he was discussing trades this past summer before he agreed to his extension, which does not kick in until this upcoming summer when the new league year starts right around June 30th or July 1st or so. So I would say this with Tyler Herro, because of the way the league structures these extensions when players are coming off of their rookie contracts, in order for him to be traded right now, it is super complicated. I will bore and put your listeners to sleep if I explain why, but it is essentially impossible for Tyler Herro to be traded until the summer. There's ways that you could make it work if we really want to do some cap gymnastics, but honestly, it's best to look to the summer if you're talking about a Tyler Herro trade. And then truthfully, it all depends on how good this team plays. If they are out in the second round or the first round, or the season goes completely in the opposite direction, all cards will be on the table, including Tyler Herro. He'll be one of their most attractive young trade chips. But otherwise, they like Bam and Herro's connection as teammates on the court, the way that they play together. That is a duo that they would be happy to build around. But I can't help but think that eventually he'll get dangled in trade talks. But when we talk about trade talks, for all the fans listening, this deadline, dead those talks. We're talking about more the summer. That's when it becomes viable to trade Tyler Herro.
Greg, before we let you go, I want to ask you about a topic you addressed on your most recent show about LeBron and Jordan. And just a what if scenario, per se, if LeBron and Pat Riley were to actually team up for a decade, he would have more titles than Jordan. That scenario was right there. It was right there for that dynasty to happen. And instead, his career plays out in a different way. I mean, he does win a title with Cleveland, wins one with Los Angeles. By him not staying in Miami and playing that out, does that affect how you view LeBron overall in that scenario?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I was born in 1982, so I'm 40. I watched all the Jordan years. I watched Jordan come into the Miami arena and toy with Glenn Rice, and then toy with Vashawn Leonard, and I saw the peak of Jordan, and it was like a rock star team coming through, very much like the Big 3 years, honestly. But it was Jordan, so it felt different, right? LeBron in Miami, the year that they won 66 games. I think that was 12-13. I've never seen a player on the planet as good as I've seen LeBron James then, right? So I'm giving them both credit. They're amazing. I love both of them. I think they're the two greatest players to ever play. This is where I come down on this. I think that LeBron, this part of his drive throughout his career and his like signature, what I'm leaving on the league is player empowerment. And what he wanted to show is I'm the one everyone's coming to see, not you, owner, not you, GM, not you, president of the team, not you, head coach. I am the guy who they're coming to see. And I hate to say this term, it makes them sound not human, product. You know what I mean? Like I'm the draw. So him going to Cleveland and that storybook win against the 73-9 Golden State Warriors, that's good for his legacy. Let's not lie. Him getting another championship with a third franchise in LA. There's not a lot of guys that have gone to 3 different franchises and won rings. That's good for his individual legacy. Let's not lie. But as a Heat fan, I think that if you attach yourself to the hip of Eric Spoelstra as a head coach and of Pat Riley and Andy Ellisberg as a front office making decisions, I just don't know how from 2010 when he arrived in Miami to 2022 now that they wouldn't have rebuilt. Think of all the rebuilds around the league from now to then that they wouldn't have found a way to get another top tier talent to come to Miami to supplement LeBron. And the Heat's thing is never tank, always win. When you have LeBron, you always should be maximizing the opportunity to have a generational talent. So to me, I feel like that marriage would have resulted in more rings over the course of all this time. So it's like, I understand why he went where he went. Maybe LA a little less than Cleveland. Cleveland makes a lot more sense when he got the historic title. But had he stuck by Riley, y'all, all these years, they would have done right by him and built enough for him to get 7. I'll stand by that. It's a hypothetical, so no one can say that I'm wrong because it's just my hypothetical hot take of the day.
I'm with you on this, Greg. I love this take, and I think LeBron is so great that he wins these titles in other franchises, like in spite of all the chaos and the turnover that creates.
Yeah. Agreed.
I think when you look at the stability that you have in a great organization with Miami, I mean, I just 100% agree. I think no way he doesn't at least match what he's done on those other franchises. And I think that may be less impressive, like in comparison, but if he wins another title in Miami beyond that, I think that's very plausible he does.
Yeah, and there's a lot of ifs. I mean, people say like, well, the Warriors came, but like, what if KD in that moment said, I'm not going to the team that just eliminated me. I'm going to go down and play with LeBron, who's retooling now that Chris Bosh's salary came off the books because of his blood clot issue. What if that I mean, there's so many what ifs, but I mean, even if you keep the league as is, I think ultimately somehow there would have been some superstar that said, I want to go down and play in Miami. It's a beautiful city, no state income tax. I'll go play down there and play with LeBron, with Riley, with Spo. So I would bet on that more than I would bet on cold Cleveland or what has now become incompetent LA, which, they haven't had these people running and making these decisions forever. But the guy, Rob Pelinka, making a lot of the decisions right now, they look a little suspect, honestly.